Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. I have been in a wee bit of a, how would you call it, a loop for the last few days, and I've been trying to describe clearly the concerns I have, or the questions I have. Not having the resources to call upon to resolve this, I've had to brute force attack the damn thing and try to come to some resolve. My concern may be waning a little bit now. I have to assume that the evidence that I am finding via the photos on the net must prove me wrong or my concerns wrong. But I believe that a weak point in this structure exists, and I'm unsure if that is simply my imagination or whether it's real and people have overcome it in different various ways. That weakness is this line across here and the attachments in particular of the purple struts to the hub and the rest of the dome. This has to be logically a weak point. It's a weak point because the struts that would create a full dome have been removed. If you remove those struts, you must therefore increase or redirect any forces to the point where it can be directed to the ground. This is it. Therefore, it must be a point of greater demand and therefore me concern. I got to the point, or I got to the point where I thought that this was, I couldn't see how the domes would stand up, but stand up they do, therefore I'm wrong. Here's my concern. Even the solid steel hubs, whether they are tubular like this or manufactured into the the angled sides and the all made out of plate steel, that they have issues. It's not the hub that's the problem in that case, it's the attachment. However, if this is not a dome, yet there are products like these star plate type fittings or fixtures or hubs that are used here, because it's not a dome, for the reasons I gave, would it fail? My conclusion is that they would or could fail if with sufficient loading. And I thought, well, all the photos I've seen haven't used, for these truncated versions, don't use star plates, which means that I'd have to either have a very heavy version of it or something like this that we see in some of the photos that I've collected over the time, and I'll draw one in now and it just shows you the representation of that same hub. I'll just draw a photo in. I'll go in here and we can see the very chunky hub where they've got the star plate on top and bottom and a tube in the middle. They've actually welded these in individually through a jig, and this is the dome here. It's 22 meters in diameter, some very chunky bits of timber, and they simply use 2 bolts. And I'm thinking, wow, that's good. That's a good design. Not one that I want to use, but that's a good design. It's using all the members in their, I think, correct positions. But of course you wouldn't use a single plate on this type of dome. You'd have to use a double plate, and they've used a double plate plus a central hub. Yay, good design. Even when you have a good hub, it's the attachments that might be a bit of a problem. Let me show you, and I've done this in another video. Here it is here, where the strut fixture has failed. And this was a rip-off of the good company Alt bar, or bar, that their product that make the quadrispheres, as they say in this bit of literature, say they've made 1,000 of them over the last 10 years, and I'm supposing that they've never had a problem. But someone, thinking they'd be cutting corners, would rip their design off and make a very, very inferior product. I can't even understand why they did that. It's just dumb. These are nut couplers or rod bolts, and they're only about 40-50 millimeters long, and by the looks of them they've been epoxied into the end of the timber with a few screws, which these screws here, well, Christ, I use them longer ones than that to fix my hinges in the doors. So how they thought that was going to work, I've got no idea. More's to the point, here's another photo, I think, of a similar, if not the same company, ripping the design off. A good design, not this, but they tried to, no, I'm not even going to say copy. They've just made a woefully inferior rip-off version of it. Not good at all. Why is it not good? Well, let me draw in another photo. Here, what's this strut? It doesn't look like it's attached to anything. Did it come from here? I'm assuming it did. This is the nut coupler. This little section here. What's this? Well, that's probably the epoxy, and if not, wood fibre. My question is, how the hell did it come off? It must have actually busted out the top of the strut itself. Again, my question would be what forces were exerted that created that energy? But note, this is the point that I am concerned about for my dome, but not the strut. This point here wasn't. This was the strut I was contemplating being an issue. This strut, if I can zoom out, is this purple strut, but the one that we saw dislocated was this. So something really, really not good has been going on with that particular dome. That's not all. I'll bring another photo in. I think it could be the same dome or whoops, my apologies for that. What the hell's going on here? Now here is a threaded insert. So someone here has tried to make a better copy, because that bolt head is not that there. That's an insert, and the thing is pulled out of the timber, meaning it has pulled through the fibres of the timber. Obviously not long enough. In fact, I don't even know whether that's a thread. It almost looks like annular grooves on it. Not good. Not satisfied with that. Where else? What else have I got here? Same situation. This is the one up by the top pyramid. And you can see, well, a bolt's been backed out there. Well, that's not good. This one started to come away. Not good. Probably this one's been stressed, and oh, look, none of them are actually pulling up against the hub. So this design, you could say, is a failure, or its implication, and that's why Altbar is rightly peed off of them. Domes do fail. Bad designs will fail. I don't want to design anything that fails, so therefore I'm a bit paranoid. My preferred dome is, and I'll draw these photos in, is this one, or similar to it. Circular steel hub, about the same size as I want to build, heavy foot for the base, yes. What's their attachments? Don't know. Same dome from a slightly higher elevation. Same thing. Nice steel hubs. Struts pushing up against it. Don't know the fixing. Another version. Here. Steel hubs. Circular steel. Heavy foot for the base. Good design, I think, because it's one I want to do. But what are they using for their fixings? Don't know. I can't actually see the bottom fixing. It may be there, I can't see it. I'd assume it's there. But does this stand up to the pressure later on? Is this a good design? I think so, but what is that attachment? Don't know. So that is my concern, that when we're looking at these theoretical structures, we have to go through the design decision process and try and allay any of the concerns that we have. And mine is the attachment on this hub. The rest of them I'm happy with. This one, not so happy. We don't want to have happening to this what happened to these examples here. I don't want to have to go to this extent. Well, I would if I was making a dome the size that these guys are building. But I want to make it as safe, strong, elegant, pleasant to the eye, and easy as I can. And I still think that the embedded threaded rods into the end of the timber of sufficient depth and dimension as far as the diameter of the rod is probably going to meet all my criteria. Easy, relatively, safe, hopefully, elegant, I think so. Yep. Long lasting, yeah, I believe so. So the steel tubular hub, as shown in these photos, is the method of attachment, or rather the hub design that I'm going to go with. And in the very next video we will reintroduce ourselves to the thoughts of that and carry on. I am relegating my much loved star plate to second place. It had taken precedence in my thinking, and I thought, right, I'll go through the effort of finding out how I could make them, which I did come up with an idea. And I'd use the star plates because they were always my preferred style of plate, but I didn't think I could make them in my home workshop, and now I think I could. The steel tubular hubs have regained first place, and that will be, as I said, reintroduced again in the next video. And with that, I'll leave you alone and say goodbye and see you in the next one. Okay, bye.